So everybody's here. That's the Mars. There it is. They messed with your order.
Oh, they did. I'm gonna have to redo that.
I'll see if it sticks one of them. Okay, we would like to welcome everyone and call to order the study meeting of the West Valley City Council this February 10th, 2026. And we're beginning our meeting at 4:30 p.m. in the multipurpose room of West Valley City Hall. We have all members of the council present. Councilmember Christensen, Councilmember Norfelt, Councilmember Wood, Councilmember Whitstone, Councilmember Hume, Councilmember Harmon, and myself. We're also joined at the table with our city manager, Mr. Peely, and our city recorder, Ms. Kamick. We have our meeting minutes from January 27th, 2026. Turn those to the council for discussion or a motion.
So I'll move for approval, but I did find a typo.
Oh, perfect.
Page 8, the top paragraph, it has Maryland instead of Maryland.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know why that jumped out at me, but it did. So I move to approve them with that change.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and those stand approved. We have the review of our regular meeting for this evening. There are two changes on the regular meeting agenda. First, we'll ask Mr. Pastrick to come up and explain the updated development agreement for application Z8 2025.
So in the exhibit B of the development, there were two changes or two additions. So if you're in the agreements, it's exhibit B. So item 8 is that it says all work performed on the additional curriculum building. And then number 9 includes the council requested plus some additional language from the applicant requested. So number 9 is no vehicle park should be stored outside of the new vehicles and display of large format commercial vehicle equipment to be permitted. So because they do upfitting, it would be, when they say the commercial vehicle equipment, it's the upfitting of equipment that would be
So is that like cranes and generators? Oh, truck beds?
As an example, that's an example.
Okay.
So if you think about like a chassis and then having the basically a truck bed that's different doors and cabins.
Right. So are they allowed to be stacked high enough you can see them over the top of the fence?
Ask that question about the amenable to capping that, and they did not want to do that, so it's not in here. But again, if that's something the council is concerned about, that's something we could put in the agreements to be able to solution.
Well, I know we've restricted the height on another commercial business out there, and I just think it doesn't look that great when it's up and above. So just for me personally, I would rather have it not be above the 6-foot fence. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. All right, and there's one other addition to the agenda, and we'll invite Ms. Young up to explain that one to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a continuation of the conversation at the last meeting about golf fees and the concern of not having the walking rate. So What's in here today is clarifying what the walking rates are for the military rate, senior and junior rates, and then adding the walking rate, making sure that that's clear for the player pass as well. So none of the fees changed. It's just separating out the walking rate and then the cart fee for those who choose to use a cart. So so that's what's before you today. So the cart fee for the player pass is $5 per night. I assume you've all gotten a lot of emails about this because I have been CC'd on many of them. And there are, comments about that the cost has gone up 300% or something. And that is in fact the case because last year with the player pass rate, it was $10 if you walk, and that was for 9 or 18. So now to walk, the rate would be 15 for 9 holes and 25 for 18 holes Monday through Thursday, and then 20 and 40 on weekdays. So it is a significant increase, but again, it didn't go up hundreds of dollars. It went from $10 to $25, which is a more reasonable rate for walking rate. So these are on the agenda to be approved later tonight with the clarification of the walking rates.
Okay, any questions?
So I'm trying to understand, are you saying this is not different than what we approved last time?
It's not, the rates are not different, it's just the walking rate for the player pass it included the discount for the walking rate, and it clarifies that among all the fees that there is an optional cart rate. And so it shows the walking rate and then what the cart fee is as well, if they choose to have that. So it's just separating out the two fees instead of lumping it together as one fee.
So it was $20. Now it's 15 for walking and $5 for a cart.
Yeah.
If you don't need a cart, then you just pay the 15. And you just had it at 20
At 20.
and 35.
Yes.
Okay.
So if they're doing a cart, what's their cost? Just $5? What's their cost?
No, it's the green fee of 15 plus the $5 cart fee,
$5.
or
Okay.
25 and 10. Yeah.
So I'm not a golfer. Is that a good rate? I mean,
That's a deal.
is it a deal?
But it's,
Okay.
that's part of the player pass. That's why
Yeah,
you buy the
Player
pass.
pass, right?
And we sold about 1,100 of the 1,500 passes. I think there were some concerns with the walking rate, so I do anticipate that we'll sell more with approval of these walking rates as well.
And the West Valley resident gets the player's pass rate.
Yes, they just don't
Okay.
have to pay the $300 pass fee. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I have a neighbor that bought a player pass, and then
Uh-huh.
afterwards realized that he didn't need to buy a player's pass. He basically it's the same rate as a resident. So
Okay, and have them reach out to us. I know they caught a lot of those as people were applying for and paying for their player pass rates. They said you actually don't need to as a resident. You don't need a pass. But if some slip through, we'll certainly work with them on it. Yeah. Because there's no need for residents to pay that fee.
Okay. Don't see any more questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we'll now go to our resolutions. We'll start with 2619. Turn the time over to Ms. Melgar.
Good evening. I'm before you to present on change. So back in November of 2024, we changed the PTO policy to put it in the schedule that of the city PTO cashing program, and also terminations day offs. Under the schedule, the PTO is paid at a percentage based on years of service. So the policy update that we are bringing before you today is to change the termination part of that policy to pay at 100% when an employee leaves our employment units. Do you have any questions?
So it's not only if they give their notice, but if they're terminated. Because in one here it just says who resigned.
Well, resigns, terminates employment on their own voluntary.
But if they're, so that's the
As
same
long
as
as
being
it's in-
fired? I mean, if someone's,
No.
okay,
In good terms.
okay,
In good-
that clarifies that, okay. Gotcha.
Any questions?
Any others? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll now go to resolution 26-20. Turn the time over to Mr. Cushing.
And Cushing, IT. What we're doing here is just replacing our existing email security that someone do, so that gives a little bit more modern tools. This uses AI to kind of understand the type of communications that are in our email system and the context there, so it can better detect things that are different. In our tests, between comparing our old system and this new system, the new system was much better at catching emails that we didn't want and had much less false positive as well. A little bit of problem with our old system, when we get a false positive, it really didn't give us the description of why it blocked the email so that we could correct the issue. Where this is very descriptive. This shot here is just an example of it, and it just is listing there all the reasons why it blocked the email. From there, you can go directly in and do the remedies too. You don't have to go into our own other administration tools to pull the email back or do any of the other things we can do. You can go right from the tool here. So it's the same cost as our previous email security.
Cool. Any questions for Mr. Cushing? Okay, thank you. We'll now go to resolution 26-21. We'll turn the time over to Mr. Funderson.
Eric Anderson, also not a golfer. The privilege of tearing up our roads to install things like fiber optics is called a franchise agreement, and this particular agreement is is a form that we use for every telecom that applies. It's a non-exclusive franchise, which means we allow all telecoms to do this under these certain conditions. It's a very standard agreement. We have dozens of them at this point. I never hear anything from Public Works and Engineering that these people are misbehaving, so it seems to be working pretty well, and there's nothing particular about this one except the name.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Of those three resolutions, are there any you would like to move to the consent agenda for the February 24th meeting?
B and C. Oh, maybe A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Three.
Okay. We'll move those to the consent. All right. Communications. So we'll turn the time over for the PSRB to Desmond or Mr. Anderson, whoever's doing this. Okay.
Yeah. On behalf of the Professional Standards Review Board, Eric Anderson, this is one of our most important boards in the city, besides you guys, of course. The review board, both in terms of perception, that is having citizens look at our police department and the use of the force, and in practical terms. They review every use of force and all internal affairs cases. They actually read probably 50 or so police reports each week or each month before they meet, which is dozens of hours of work. The residents that we have on this board are all very happy to be there. They only leave reluctantly, like if they're going on a mission or moving out of town or something like that. So we have several members on there who've been there for a long time, and they're really diligent and they do good work. So they are required to report to the council. It's supposed to be every quarter. We usually get around to doing it once a year, and this is the yearly report. Yeah, that's what I just said. So for the first quarter last year, We reviewed all of these uses of force. We found 0 out of policy. And the little summary is it was mostly physical control and show of force tactics. And again, none were out of policy. That same quarter, they reviewed so let me back up a little. They review all uses of force automatically, and then they review all internal affairs cases, and that's what we're calling allegations on this slide. And so in the first quarter, they reviewed 4 allegations and found 2 sustained, 2 unfounded. And what the PSRB does is they don't get to set the actual discipline. The chief there gets to do that, but they do give recommendations, and the chief uses those recommendations as sort of a second opinion or okay, that's a good point. They did this, and it's a very good and interesting dynamic that helps us get to the right resolution in each of these cases. Second quarter, 133 uses of physical force, show of force 79, consistent with the first quarter. We found all of those in policy at the PSRB. 4 more internal affairs allegations, and again, 2 sustained, 2 not sustained. Obviously, we're not going to list the discipline in this public meeting. Those are the results. Again, a lot of use of forces in quarter 3. A lot more complaints reviewed in quarter 3. This is an unusually high amount of internal affairs, but they got through all of them. Sustained 11 counts, exonerated 2, unfounded 6, including some time off and retraining for some officers. Last quarter of the year, again, a pretty fair amount of uses of force, and the internal affairs allegations back down to the normal amount. And those resulted in some discipline by our chief of police. So, in total, over the last year, the PSRB reviewed 818 cases and found out of policy. And again, they review every time an officer goes hands-on with someone or displays a weapon. So those were all good. And the summary, and what I think this means, is that our use of force policies are being followed, and that our oversight board, this PSRB, is active and effective. They will send reports back to police officers, corrections. I don't understand why you did this. Will you please rewrite that? Kind of like an English teacher sending an essay back, and they'll do that to officers. They're not afraid to speak their mind. They will fight with each other, and spend as much time as they need coming to consensus. It's in some process, and it's a board, and we're quite happy to have them here. We'd like to continue on with them. Some of them will be up for renewal of their terms in March, and we can talk more about that. But overall, a good year for the police department as far as uses of force go. Any questions about any of those things?
Any questions?
I had a question about the out of policy or within policy. I tried to do a year-over-year comparison, and I went back. I could only find all of 2023 and 1 quarter of 2024, but based on that and then this report, there's been a significant improvement over compliance with the policy. Like a huge improvement. And I was curious if there's been an emphasis on different training or maybe the criteria is different. I don't know, but going back to 23, there's been a pretty decent improvement on policy and compliance.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. And I don't want to throw Colleen under the bus. Is that something you feel comfortable answering now?
Yeah, the policy has not changed. I dare say that training continues to improve. I think past policy violations, it's been geared more toward pursuits than the actual force used by officers. Our policy is probably the most restrict in the state as far as if there is anything above non-compliance and they have to like muscle somebody into handcuffs, it's a use of force. So I think as far as following policy, even in past years, it's pretty few and far between. And I think part of it is how much they have to articulate it. It really makes me think about it.
Well, great job.
I'm going to make a note that in next year's or next quarter's presentation, I'll include some year-over-year statistics and see if we can pull. We've been keeping track for a long time, so we should have some good numbers to show for that. So I'll make sure we do that.
Sure. On quarter three's use of force, it mentions 2 taser uses. But on all the other quarters, taser isn't mentioned. I don't know if it's included in something else, or are these the only 2 taser uses all year?
I pulled these right from the records, so I'd have to double check that, but I did get them from the reports that I was provided from the spreadsheet. So if they're not on there, it either skipped over that and missed it, or those are the only 2. Does that sound right?
There is a high compliance rate when a taser is displayed.
So they're shown but not deployed.
Correct. That would be under the show of force.
Okay.
Got it. I would.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
I'd rather them work that way.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, want to move on to the ethics and open meeting training?
Me as well.
It's the Mr. Bunderson show for a bit.
I'm the Patrick of the night.
Yep. Well, he's next.
All right, I'm going to give this one to the boss, and then
I don't know which one it is.
I'm going to ask Ifo to be the judge.
It's you.
Okay, so every year we have to do ethics training, and I've tried to keep it fresh for, we did the video last year. We've done all kinds of activities. This year I have grown the mustache in honor of Alex Trebek and Classic. And so I figured we would do Jeopardy. Now, what I would like to do then is split us into 2 teams, and let's do the staff. You guys need to lose. And we'll let the city council pick a fruit or vegetable first. What would you guys like to be?
Broccoli.
Broccoli.
I was going to say onion, so broccoli might be a step up.
And staff, what do you want to do?
Lemons.
Lemons. All right. Broccoli versus lemons. Okay, so this is a regular game of Jeopardy. There's ethics, open meetings, and harassment. Ifo will be the judge as sort of the bridge between the staff and the city council to see if you got your answer correct. And Jim and Mike, if you'll help me and tell me who raised their hands first. Okay. All right. We'll let the city council, of course, go first. Where would you like to start?
Cindy, go ahead and pick one.
Open meetings for 100.
Open meetings for 100. This law requires city council meeting, right? And it's a specific.
Oh,
That's Remark?
Utah Open Meetings Act.
what is?
You guys are lemons? Oh, look at that.
Wow.
All right.
You're supposed to lose. I forgot that. I'm sorry.
Your board. Your board, staff.
Oh, we'll take harassment for 300, Alex.
Even a single incident can qualify as harassment if it is this. It's like the chief back there.
Sexual harassment.
I'm sorry, I don't think that is it. Aoife, what do you say?
That's not it. Or do you want?
Yeah.
That's not it.
That's not it.
It's
Okay.
it's a weird.
What is
question.
egregious?
Oh, what do you think about egregious, boss?
I think that's pretty close.
Yeah.
What is the
So, sexual harassment, there's two different ways it can go. It can either be pervasive, which means there's a lot of little violations, right? Like little jokes, little kind of things that build up over a series of time. Or it can be severe, and in that case, for sexual harassment, one incident can be enough to trigger a suit. All right, back to the council. Where would you like to go from here?
Let's do ethics for 4.
Ethics
please,
for
Alex.
400. It is a violation of the law to get this by releasing private, controlled, or protected information you get from your position at the city.
Grandma?
Mala,
Grandma?
is that?
Grandma?
No. Anyone else?
So how would you put it?
Lars?
Privileged information? No.
No. Scott,
Payment.
what do you say, boss?
You want to let him expound on what he means by? I think it's close
Compensation.
enough. Yeah. Benefit for yourself.
Oh,
Right?
benefit for
Benefit
yourself.
for yourself.
Okay.
We'll call it close enough. All right, council, back to the board.
Ethics for 500.
And you guys play like the new way. This phrase means the ownership, either legally or equitably, by an individual spouse, or the individual's minor children, of at least 10% of the outstanding shares of the corporation, or 10% interest in another business.
Conflict of interest. Conflict of interest? No,
I don't.
that's the form I have to fill out to put all that on there, so.
I think the question is asking something different.
Okay.
Jim?
What is a control employee?
No.
Okay.
All right, we're just.
Will wants to
Oh,
take
Will?
a chance.
Sir?
Beneficial owner.
No, sir.
So wait, what did Jim mean by control employees?
What do you mean by control, Jim?
Well, someone has to disclose their ownership or
Right.
interest in the business if they're going to do business with the city.
Right. But this is a specific. Sorry, I made this
Praise
one.
needs.
I made this one too hard.
Oh,
So
substantial interest.
that language means a substantial interest. And so what do you have to do if you have a substantial interest in a business that you're
There's
doing
conflict of
business?
interest.
Yeah. All right, so that goes back to the council.
Open meetings for 500.
Taking action in a meeting that violates Open and Public Meetings Act can result in this consequence. We don't
I was gonna say, a lawsuit?
close, but
Flogging.
the answer is that actually,
Oh.
so if you violate the Open Meetings Act, that act that you take is invalid. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
All right, I think we're still at the council.
Because nobody's getting.
Harassment 400.
Harassment for 400. This is how council members can violate harassment policies. And I think broadly about what your job is.
Everything.
Close. Sam, is that a raised hand? No. All right, this one's kind of tough too. I'm not the best Jeopardy writer.
Okay.
So basically, as policyholders or as policymakers, the policies that you create can create an environment that could result in sexual or harassment type situations. So your role, just like it is with every other kind of city thing, is that oversight and creating that broad policy that prevents that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? All right, still with the council.
Ethics for 300.
Ethics for 300. This concept, a synonym with dispute, is allowed in city business as long as it is disclosed properly in most cases.
Conflict of interest.
You got it.
Get there eventually.
Yep. Okay, back to the council.
Open meetings for 200.
Meetings for 200.
Well, that's ethics.
Sorry.
That's all right.
That's all right. We could be that.
Okay, let's do this one. Fines, job loss, or jail are
Ethics.
Nicole says,
Oh,
now who does Nicole count for?
I know. Oh, yeah. Staff.
All right. Back on staff.
Let's close it out. Ethics for 100.
Ethics for 100. This acronym, similar to your NANA,
Oh no.
defines records as private, controlled, or protected. That's not a problem for that's the list, right?
Yep.
Okay. Staff. Paula?
Harassment for 100.
What? 100. This term describes unwelcome conduct based on protected characteristics. Nope.
Harassment.
One of the protected classes? Nope. It's in the title.
What is harassment?
Give that one to-
What is harassment?
It was harassment. Okay. Council.
Harassment for 200.
Harassment for 200. This type of harassment involves job benefits. Paula can't answer this one. Job benefits conditioned on conduct.
Quid pro quo.
You got it, Jamie.
Oh, sorry.
It's not informal.
Just question.
What is?
Oh yeah, answer.
We haven't been doing
That's staff again.
500.
500. The city uses this process to quickly and thoroughly, uses this process, forget the two, quickly and thoroughly when we receive a complaint.
Investigation.
Investigation.
Sorry.
What we do here is, and again, part of this training is just to tell the council, again, as broad policymakers, that we have a system in place. So when we get a sexual harassment claim or any kind of harassment claim, we have a anonymous email box set up. We have all kinds of different ways, and we train our employees in the different ways they can come make those complaints. They can jump over their supervisor without consequence. They can go to HR, they can come to me, or they can do this anonymous email. And when they do that, we have a whole system in place, which we have been exercising very thoroughly lately, of investigating these incidents. We assign an attorney, we assign an investigator to each case, and we go through the whole thing. We get training from the police and other sources on how to do this, and we write up a report and we turn that over to the department head, and we do that quickly because that's the thing that protects us most in a lawsuit is that we did something and we did it quickly. So that's the investigation process. Open meetings. Should we just take it from the top, or do you? No, who's got control of the board? That was the
Staff.
Staff. This must be posted in advance, and Nicole, you
I
can't.
can't.
This must be posted in advance to legally hold a meeting. Notice. Right, boss? Yep. That's the broccoli. Upper public notice with it. And again, well, perhaps the city council has ultimate responsibility for it. Who actually does the work is Nicole, and she does a fantastic job. In fact, you would probably say you were looking at it from the outside that we over notice you guys, and I'm okay with that. I think we're all okay with that because it just keeps us safe. Okay, for 300, discussing matters not on the agenda is generally prohibited unless they fall into this narrow category. It's kind of tricky. We talked about it the other.
Closed door meeting.
No, not a closed door meeting. Anyone else? Yeah, this one.
For safety, emergency, yeah,
No,
not even emergency.
not emergency.
That's in the opposite.
Non-action.
Informational
Oh.
or non-action. It's kind of like we do in the.
Okay.
And finally, a closed meeting is allowed only for these limited reasons. You only have to name one.
Property acquisition.
Not the acquisition. Here they all are. Oh. No, no.
We just gave it to Lemons.
There's no bias at all.
Under professional confidence, litigation, collective bargaining, disposition of real property, criminal conduct, and security. So again, in terms of open meetings, everything is kind of like grammar. Everything is public. Everything is an open meeting, and then there are very narrow categories. For bonus points, which we don't have final jeopardy here. For bonus points, which ones do you record and which ones don't?
Do not record personal confidence. Personal, yeah.
And one we don't deal with often.
It's criminal misconduct, maybe. I
Security.
don't know. Security.
I think you do record
Wait,
criminal
you
misconduct.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't ever talk
No, we
about
don't
criminal
record
misconduct.
security.
It's just professional
Confidence
and security. Deployment of security.
Okay, any questions about your open meetings ethics or sexual harassment? Oh, I've never seen this screen. Oh, Team Broccoli.
All right. Least boring.
Yeah. A lot more than just listen.
I think I'm still up.
Yes, you are. So if we're done with that one, we'll turn enforcement of HOAs in HOAs.
Serious face on now. The answer, frankly, is easy, and I could have given it to you the other day, but I wanted to go a little further into this. So, city ordinances are enforceable throughout the city, whether they're in an HOA or not. Traditionally, and by policy, we have not enforced in HOAs because the theory of an HOA is that they have a higher standard than the city, and they will enforce that. In practice, that is obviously not the case, and so it gets constitutionally tricky here. And so when you are able to observe a violation from a public place or from a place that you have been invited, you can use that as evidence and cite the code. Where we've run into problems occasionally is down a private easement, like a long road that turns like this that's not a public street. So we're not invited down that public street. We could possibly be in violation of the person's Fourth Amendment. And if you can't see it from the street, we don't have that plain view access. Now, what we need to do in these particular cases is look at them on a case-by-case basis. For example, in this case, Tumai did a lot of investigation and found that there is no owner to that street. Who we thought was the owner came in and yelled at him, saying that I don't own that area. So, in my opinion, we can drive down that street, look at the violations, and cite them. That's not always going to be the case. There are going to be private roads that we're not invited down, that we can't get down for some reason. But that's the general rule. Does that make sense to everyone? Sort of.
So not just one of us being invited to somebody's house and seeing something, it's code enforcement being invited into the area to look. Okay.
Code enforcement officer could be invited to a place where they could look at another place and observe a violation.
And that's from someone that lives on that private street.
Yeah, as long as they're legally allowed in the place they're standing to view.
Yeah.
So if someone came to us that lived in an HOA claiming, we'd have to tell them they have to report it. Okay. And invite them. Okay.
That's the key, that we're legally invited to observe the violation. And frankly, you can see why the policy has been for many years not to do that, because get into this case by case analysis. But that is the facts of the law right there.
So to change what our policy has been, we can do that legally. And do we need to decide as a council to do that?
I would think so, to ask staff to bring it forward.
Is it a written policy that we have?
Oh, it's not?
Do you have it written down? No, that's just been.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you give me a nod, we're there. I mean, I don't know if we need to. In fact, we just said, I think we already assumed that.
That's what
we need to go check out this.
Yeah.
This HOA. This, I mean, I'll be spurred on by this specific issue, but unless you guys have differing opinions on it.
If it's a nuisance to their neighbors, then I think it is our duty to go take care of it.
If somebody puts on the website, the code enforcement website, we've got an issue in this property and it's in an HOA, what's the process? I mean, is that gonna be is that gonna stop progression on the reporting, or are they gonna contact the people and say, hey, I just need to be invited in and you can show me? Or
So, yeah, I mean, how we would handle that, again, I have to do it on a case-by-case basis. First and easiest thing is if Tumai's guys can drive and see it from the public, done. That's a plain view observation, and we can do it. And after that, including the courtesy notice that we can send to anyone, and see if we can resolve it that way. So it will get complicated. I don't want to stand up here and say that it's going to be easy and everything's going to be great. Like, HOAs are sometimes their own entity, and the houses aren't even owned by the people. It gets weird. Ownership gets weird. But again, on a case by case basis, Tumai and I work together. We can figure things out.
I'm happy with that.
Me too, especially if it's a complaint by a neighbor that sees it every day.
That's the best case scenario, because then that neighbor can invite us.
Yeah, to their house.
We're not planning on proactively going into.
Yeah.
I think
Only
that
by
was
complaint.
not what the council wanted anyway, right?
Complaint.
Yeah, just reactive.
So I only see 2 nods. Okay, never mind. We have at least 5.
I'm very comfortable out here, Steve. Do you want me just to?
Pop-up vendor discussion. Go for it, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Pastrick.
I'm sure you do a fine job with this topic as well. So this is one the council requested some information on what I'm calling pop-up vendors. First of all, I want to discuss the difference between those that are legal and those that aren't. So on the left, the legal column, we do have a process for food vendors, whether that's like a food truck or a food like trailer, or temporary uses. Those are things like Christmas tree lots, snow cone shacks, those kinds of things. In the legal instances, you have a business license. The property owner of the site has given the permission. In the case of like food trucks or trailers, those are inspected by the fire department. That actually is a pretty significant issue. Jody reminded me in LA for some of the food trucks that actually exploded because they weren't inspected. And then again, in the instance of food vendors, the vehicle or the trailer is short of the commissary. So that's all about food safety, cleanliness, right? So then on the illegal side, you've got, again, a permit and a license. They may or may not have property owner. Yeah.
So I see on the next one, you say they have to be inspected by the health department, but they also have the blue health department sticker on the back of the vehicle.
Correct.
So you can look at it and see if it's illegal or illegal just by that. Sorry.
So yeah, you can see here just the other entities that inspect or that don't do inspections in the illegal survey. So it's actually the health department's actually reached out to us and other cities because this is a growing problem. So they've tried to educate the public on some of the dangers of eating in unpermitted locations, right? Either is the right temperature or just things in between. So you see here on the right, there's just an article they had on KSL trying to educate the public about that. And they've also asked for our help in trying to enforce against these types of issues. So to let the council know what we've been doing, when I say we, I really mean Ricardo, who's here with us. Since May of last year, he had 55 different interactions, and I'll explain what I mean by that, but 40 different cases, enforcement cases. So those interactions mainly dealt with trying to educate, first of all, the vendors, letting them know, hey, here are the rules, right? These are the regulations. In some cases, it's also educating the business where they're located, which may be a tenant, right? And then the third is the property owner, right? So he's, in some cases, spoken with one or three of those, depending on the situation. In the case where vendors have been educated, if they're not moving along, then basically you just can't be here. And then there have been some instances where so we'll have a vendor that's moved along, and then another one comes along, right? So we have to let the property owner know and actually give them a notice saying, hey, this is something where you're not having to move along, so you have responsibility on that. And we've also, again, Ricardo has done some inspections outside of the normal business hours because people tend to wise up and know when we do enforcement, so they try to operate outside of normal business hours. Here's just some examples in the pictures that Ricardo's taken. You can see it's everything from fruit to clothing to, I'm not sure on the left the top of the list, but food, more food. So some of the challenges we run into here, if you recall, we had the Redwood Drive-In that closed up, and when they did, for a time we had kind of a surge, right, where people were that had been selling, just tried to set up shop anywhere they could find, a vacant lot on Redwood Road, for example. So we did have a surge for a time, and just having to educate people on what the rules are. Another thing that makes it challenging here is just the fact that they won't. So this is a bad analogy, but I use the term whack-a-mole, right? Right? You have them moved off one site, they either move to the other side, or someone else comes onto the same site, right? So it's kind of that ongoing challenge. Some of the other concern or challenges for college ranking is operators not having an ID or just not be able to speak English, or just in trying to educate them can be a challenge sometimes. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, is as we do enforcement during regular business hours, people can analyze and try to do on weekends or other times so they're not trying to avoid getting caught. So those are, again, just some of the challenges we're running into. But again, we're dealing with it as it comes in.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah. If the private property owner gives permission for a vendor to sell out to the public on their property, are they responsible for verifying that they're licensed and inspected, or what level of responsibility does the property owner have?
So let's take a temporary use as an example. The person applying for the temporary use is required to give the owners, they have to actually have the owner sign the application. So that's how we know if they've actually talked with the owner.
And what about those that just are doing it on the sidewalk, not particularly on the property, the flower sellers? That's not owned by a property owner, right?
And so in that case, there really isn't, we don't have any reason to do that.
Right.
It does need to be on private property, so they really just can't be conducting business on the sidewalk.
The challenge is most of those are on the weekends, things like that. So.
Is there any zoning restrictions on pop-up vending?
It's the legal pop-up is you just can't for things like temporary uses, for example, it has to be in a commercial. One of the things that makes it really tricky is the state code a few years ago is that for food trucks, state law now says that if they're licensed in another city, we have to honor the business license in our city. So that's one of the reasons.
So even if we have a cap and all of our 15 permits are out, somebody can come from another city and be the 16th?
So on that question, Jody's here. I'm going to phone a friend and have Jody. Yeah. Jody's our in-house.
Jody now. So we do it a little bit different. So the county has mobile food truckers, and they just define them as people that move, and they can be on a site for up to 4 hours. But in the city, with our 15, categorize those as food vending units, which is a trailer only. So if you're a trailer, you can be part of the 15 and stay on a site and have one of our 15 licenses. But if you're a truck, you can be mobile and be anywhere up to 4 hours, and that's not included in.
Or a pop-up tent is not included.
So, right, and a tent would not be approved by the health department either because they don't meet any of their. That's just prohibited everywhere.
Okay, so if you see a pop-up tent and they're vending out of that, then it's not illegal vending.
And as the mayor mentioned, so if let's just say it's a truck, they're all going to have the health department sticker, which looks almost like a license type sticker, and then a fire department sticker, which is a yellow sticker, and it's usually on the door inside the trailer. So they'll have both of those that show that they've been inspected by the health department, inspected by the fire department, and then they should have a business license from somewhere. And then the 15, they all have a placard that looks like a parking sign. It's one of the big, and they have a number. And then we also do a yearly sticker that shows that they're valid for that certain licensing period. So the ones that stay in a spot should have those.
So how did we come up with 15?
So it was done in
'Cause I think I've seen
2009.
more than 15 around, I think.
Well, not the
Not-
stationary
not
ones.
right.
Yeah, and so it had to do. We had like a number that we came up with based off of population, and it just sort of we just capped it at 15.
That for your reading.
For less?
Are all 15
I wouldn't go for more.
released right now, and do we have a waiting list?
So what was our population in 2009? A lot less than we are now.
Probably 130-ish.
I think that's it.
And the concern was, I mean, you have to be certain distance from a brick and mortar food, or did that go away?
Yeah, that went away. It's from
Okay.
another unit, so 500 feet, and then 200 feet from residential. And then there's some fire department requirements where you have to be 15 feet away from a building, 50 feet away from a storm drain.
Okay.
Can't be rid in an intersection that would cause problems with traffic. So it is
Pretty
limiting,
restricted.
but it's more for safety concerns too. And then, so they really need to find larger parking lots, bigger spaces that also have enough extra parking for another use to come into the parking lot.
So how many are on the waiting list?
About 10.
And I think the concern back then was the effect on our brick and mortar who are paying the property taxes, doing everything that's more substantial than the food trucks taking all their business away as well, is one of the concerns, I think.
And a lot of the complaints we are getting for the illegal pop-up ones are from our businesses saying, okay, I have to meet all these regulations. What are you guys doing about these guys?
So who can you call or send a text message to on the weekends when the guys in front of 7-Eleven on 48th and 35th on Saturday and Sunday? Because Valentine's Day is coming up and they're going to be out by the hundreds.
So one thing that would help is something where we could coordinate a little bit more with PD is if PD simply takes a picture, right, of that, then Ricardo can then do enforcement during the week, right? We just need evidence that it happened, and then we can, in that case, like,
Okay, so the owner would be responsible, not the actual people
Other
there.
than it's on the sidewalk. So who's the owner of the sidewalk?
well,
Well, now they're on their lawn. They're on their property somewhat.
I drive by there too, but
I mean, if they're on the sidewalk, there again, if it's on the public space, police can have them removed off of public property. But if it's private, again, if we just need evidence that it occurred, we have that.
So if it's on the sidewalk, police can go give them a ticket right then and move them along? And is that the policy?
If they're actually doing vending, that's my understanding, and we can circle around on that specific issue, but that's my understanding, is because anyone can just be blocking or holding the sign or something. If they're actually doing business on the sidewalk, then that's where they're not permitted to do that.
I think at one point we said if it's a major road too, they can't stop traffic.
So that, you're referring to, we have an ordinance for panhandling, and that was more, which really transacting that way. So a little bit different because we do commission specific streets in that situation.
I know 40th and 47th in front of the 7-Eleven are going to have flowers there anytime in the near future.
So many more questions.
I think my big concern was the tents. I mean, in the last year or two, we've talked about this. It's the tents that just pop up, and there may be a vehicle there may not be a vehicle, but obviously they're not legal vending. So Thanks for your efforts, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if we get pictures, send text messages, that would be helpful.
Yes, so
Okay.
again, being able to, in that situation, we do essentially administrative citation, because by the time we're sending the notice, right, I'm sure they've already packed up and gone, but at least at that point, we can send that to the owner, and then they know, okay, next time, okay, if this is happening, even if they didn't condone it, at least now in the future, they'll know, hey, if it's there, then the city can send the tickets on and tell them.
And who should those photos and things be sent to?
If you do see something, we can have you send that to the photo.
Okay. You can share that with us.
Do the owners just get one courtesy notice, and then after that, they get a citation, right?
Now, if we have had some issues with property where it's a repeat offense, right? In that case, there was no courtesy for it's the first time for sure. So we're talking to them, receiving courtesy. To add to that, as far as pictures, if you have having an address to, sometimes it's from the picture's not right away apparent where it is, so they know where it is.
Great.
So we inundate Ricardo, or do you send them? Give us
Send them a
everything.
picture of that.
So is there more of a, do we actually send them to him? And if so, we need his contact information.
Yeah, so we can have a form on our website.
Is there? Okay.
Reporting, issues, and so I'll figure out what the best approach is there, and have them send out.
Okay, that'd be great.
Do a portal, or we just do a direct email. I'm just not sure right now if I'm going to sell for this issue specifically, so we
okay.
You can probably handle 5 emails a week extra.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Pastrick? Okay, then we'll go to land planning discussion with Mr. Pastrick and Mr. Springmeyer. And this is a property on 1300 West and 3300 South.
Good afternoon, Council. Jonathan Springmeyer. I'm going to keep going on we've got a theme going. We have Jeopardy, Steve referenced, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We want to play Let's Make It. Monty Hall. There we go. I'll be Monty. Travis, if you could skip through, we got the whole, go to like page 5 on this. And while you're doing that, I'm going to remind us all of our background. So, a year and a half ago, we put out an RFP for this property. We received 4 proposals back. 2 of them were presented to you in closed session. This is property that is owned wholly by the redevelopment agency. It was determined that neither of those proposals were on target enough that we wanted to move forward with it. We then, as staff, shifted and said, okay, we're gonna, instead of guessing what you might all want there, we're gonna involve you in the process, bring you into the kitchen. We brought on our consultants. We went through this exercise of the last several months in developing this plan. The plan has been finalized, final report here, and what's behind you is the site plan of what came forward from that work, with a mix of multifamily, single family, townhomes, commercial, all of that. Question to you now is the plan that you all jointly develop, are we comfortable enough with this plan? Would we like to move forward using this plan as a guideline and a basis to shop this property again?
Would we RFP it? Is that what we do?
We can do. I think that'd probably be our best our best option.
I personally like it. I like the ownership on the west and then the north sides. I think the benefit of having the multifamily building is it's going to help the commercial if we ever end up doing commercial there. So I think it's not perfect, but it's as good as it's probably going to get for that piece on 35th, 33rd.
I was very underwhelmed by it. I did not like it at all. And I don't know if they were trying to get the density just to have commercial on there. I would rather not have commercial and have less density if that's a choice. So I'd rather wait for a really good project than try and put one into action that's not the best, because it's going to be there a really long time.
So what would be a really good project?
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Because that,
You know
cause
what
that,
you see.
'cause that piece of property is so challenging. Yeah, not only for a lot of reasons. The location, the layout, it's just challenging.
I mean, truly,
The power corridor.
I'd rather have no commercial and single family starter homes than on 7,000 or 8,000 square foot lots. Because I think they were trying to get the density because of the commercial. And I don't,
Well, and
and across the street, we've proven it doesn't work to try and do density for commercial.
commercial certainly did, and the amount of commercial that they have is far less than we push back on that. I think what they were trying to do is create a balance. We charged them with coming up with the best plan while also maximizing the value of this land that we would be selling. That's a tough one. As a single family detached, it's worth substantially less than it is as with density on that. We know that. So I think that was the trend.
And so that's
Well,
why you do commercial and multifamily, so you get your sales price up.
Yeah. But that's the developer's mentality, not the good of the city's mentality. And I don't think it's right for us to try and maximize the money we get out of this property on a not great development for the city itself.
How many households are we going to add to the city if we did this?
The total in this concept is 257.
And the state complains that the cities aren't doing enough for housing. I think this would be a card that we could show and say, look what we've done. We took a piece of ground that we had sitting for 40 years to put in a bunch of housing units.
Yeah, as I look at it, in any piece of property, I always say, is that I learned this in planning commission, is this the right thing to do on this property? And how I like single family, and if we did small, but I don't know if this is the right place, right on 33rd, where single family, I don't know if that's the right fit for that property. So that's my struggle. I like single family, smaller lots, but I don't know if this is the right place for that.
Well, and I just look further west. We have quite a bit of residential on 35. And with the brick wall or cement wall along 33rd.
That's a busy road,
Yep.
right by the canal. It's, I think that's when I look at it, who's going to, I like single family, I like smaller options, but is this the right place for that? I don't know.
But Cindy, but in
That
the
area.
but in the south side, you see that a lot of townhouses and condos,
Right.
and also in Redwood Road, we have over 400 units for townhouses, condos. So I kind of like what the mayor says. Put some houses in there, balance, a little bit.
Even right on
Yeah,
33rd.
put the wall, I'm saying? It's something.
Well, for me, I recognize there's been a lot of work put into this, even before I joined the council, according to Councilman Christensen. It's been a topic for a while.
Eric's putting more hours on this
Yeah.
property than anybody.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just not on board with this. I don't want to, my wife's Debbie, so I can say I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but just my preference would be to develop a park. And I know there's a park across the street, the county park, but with everything else that's around the river, the cultural center, this could be truly a gem that sits at the gateway of one of the gateways of our city.
I know, as Councilman Whetstone said, before when we were trying to get the developer to get our picture of what we wanted there, every picture they came up with was, I could find a copy of it somewhere down Bangerter Highway, right on the highway. And that's not what we wanted. That's why it sat for so long, because the developer and council were trying to come up with a deal, and we never made one. So Monty, you're fired. But right across the street, we've tried the multi-family, tried a commercial in front, but even the Chamber of Commerce couldn't keep as an office because of other problems other than just the development. But it's still not really doing much in that commercial development.
No, the commercial there has never been.
I couldn't see duplicating it on the other side and say, okay, is this side better?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's going to be.
Well, and do we have a rush to get it done, or can we wait for the general plan study that's going to be done that might have a more comprehensive, the entire city and what the needs are in different areas with their plan?
From staff's perspective, there's no rush. The only consideration just how involved you want to be in marketing your property, or if we just like to sit on it, right? So yeah, our general plan process is projected to be wrapped up in April of next year. So certainly we can have this be part of the consideration. We wouldn't do as deep a dive as we did with this, right? But
certainly an area of focus.
Right, it could be an area that we take a look at.
I think I've made my position clear in the past, but I'll say it again, that I think it should be open space. There was a beautiful plan as a third phase, I think, of the Veterans Memorial, where it looks like it's landscaped to look like a waving flag as the jets are flying over there. To see that and say, oh, that's I think it's a mistake to develop it for something that's nah.
Okay. I don't want to push them back.
Well, I like the idea of waiting for the general plan. And would this be shared with them, kind of what we went through?
Yes.
Yeah, like see what they might come up with. Consultants.
So just to recap then, we'll ask the consultants on the general plan to take a fresh look at this. We won't bring anything else to the council unless someone sort of proactively approaches this, because we're not going to actively shop this, but
we get an offer we can't refuse, we'll bring it to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll turn the time over to Mr. Johnson for our legislative update.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm already getting teary-eyed. This is my second to last legislative update for you all this session, so that's going to be tough to deal with. We are halfway through it as of I think tomorrow, so we are rolling through. And I'll tell you, it's been a pleasure hanging out with the mayor on Mondays. You haven't lived life unless you've had eggs for breakfast up at the Capitol and box sandwiches. I'm living the good life on that.
This week's box sandwiches were so much better than last
They were
week's.
much better.
So
And the pickle is a nice touch.
we'll just take it.
Right now, we are at 850 bills, and they anticipate that we'll break the 1,000 mark, which has never happened up at the Capitol. So that's something we should all be very excited about. It's exhausting. We've had 45 bills that have passed, which is pretty typical, but with this many bills out there, it means it's going to be a pretty wild final few weeks, and probably a lot of bills that they were hoping to get passed may not be able to because they just don't have time. So I wanted to go over just a few things. If there's any questions, please let me know. There's a lot of property tax bills that are still out there, but there's a lot of discussion behind the scenes. We don't really have any answers right now because some of those bills are being combined or being talked about being combined and changed and modified and everything in between. So we're keeping an eye on it. Nothing really to report besides what's in the bill tracker. Thank you. The homeless bill, the big one that we're all waiting for, still has not been done. We're still waiting for it. There are several bills that are out there that are addressing the campus model, which we do not believe is going to be the final homeless framework. We think it's going to stay on the scattered shelter model, which we are part of. Our place in that is also being decided what that means for us. So we're waiting on word on that. Right now, there are several bills dealing with the campus model that will big bill comes out, because from what we understand, that big bill does have plenty of support behind it. The biggest problem they're showing right now with the campus model is it's just too expensive right now. The state can't fund it with the climate that we're in. They're not taking it off the table, so I guess we'll deal with that next year. A couple of the other ones, charter school bill that I think I talked about last time. This is the one where if a school district closes a school and decommissions it as a school, in the past, the city would have the first right to be able to purchase that land, that school, and do what it wants with it as long as it had for a public good. The bill that came forward was to put charter schools in that first priority. And so if a school, Granite School District, if they closed the school, the charter school would have the first right to purchase it over the city. That's been a discussion now for the past few weeks, and it looks like they've come to the agreement that the joint, which isn't really the right phrasing, but it'll be a joint first right between the city and charter schools to buy the Granite School District property that is being closed down, or that school that's being closed. There are concerns with that. I think they've been alleviated for the most part because in almost, except for 2 instances in the past 5 decades, the school district is always sold to the city. And they do it for various reasons, mainly because doing it to a charter school is just more competition for the school district to lose students to the charter school. We're pretty confident after hearing everything that's been discussed that even though it's not ideal, we'd like to stay in that first right of refusal. We'll still get it if we want it, if a school opens up. Any questions on that? Okay. One that I know that has been discussed among all of you, and you've gotten emails on it, is House Bill 501. I don't have much to add to the question of how this will affect Great Salt Lake. I know that was some of the concerns that came up. But I can address kind of another issue that is probably going to sink this bill. Pretty much every city opposes it. What this bill, for those that don't know, the bill is that every city that uses water would be taxed an infrastructure part of the water. So if we were a city that had our own and we supplied water, their calculation would be the median adjusted gross income, the people in the city, times 1.5% if it was just water. If it's also wastewater that's being provided, it would be 3%, times the number of connections. It's a little complicated. It's very expensive for each city. So each city then would collect those fees and basically deposit it in a city fund. And when a water infrastructure need came up, they would use that money to pay for that infrastructure. They could only access additional state funds if they agreed to this and put money in their own city fund to pay for the water infrastructure. It's a little complicated. Well, it's a lot complicated, and it is very expensive. A lot of the concerns by the cities, the basic one was, we can do that on our own. We don't need to be told by the state how to do it, how to keep the funds, how to use the funds. We'll just do it on our own. Sorry. Sorry, I'm so passionate. I go dry now. Mayor, unless you disagree, this seems it's pretty dead unless they make some drastic changes to this. I wasn't aware of any of the Great Salt Lake concerns. Did you? They didn't talk about that. They did not. I think most believe that it has so many. Probably won't even get to further discussion, but it's there and it is a concern by pretty much every city. So I think we've got a lot of support to push back against that one specifically. Yes.
As I understand it, then we would have to charge a tax the residents who are provided water by Granger Hunter.
So that came up, and it does sound like, and correct me again, Mayor, if I'm wrong, it does sound like the city would have to charge it, at least how it's written now. The city would have to charge that as well as the Conservancy District would have to charge it.
So Granger Hunter would have to charge it with tax also.
That's just in the initial writing. I'm sure that part would be fixed, but even by fixing that part, you're talking hundreds of millions in taxes on residents. Yes.
Property taxes bad.
It's amazing they want to do these kind of taxes, but want to limit cities on any other taxes.
But they put it on the city to do it. It's not the state doing it. It's the city.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
And
so
for
I
those,
hope that
well, don't you think for those cities that have their own water system, they're only taxed once? You have the city and an outside supplier, you're taxed double.
Correct.
And our infrastructure is pretty much done. And the others are the new cities that don't have the infrastructure. So it's very wonky.
Yeah, definitely is. There's a lot of issues. Any questions about what we've gone over, or any questions in general about what's happening? Okay.
Awesome.
Just look forward to 2 weeks from now. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Council calendar. Any concerns? Seeing none, go to our potential future agenda items. Seeing none, we'll go to council reports. Everybody has to get out the calendar and see what they did the last however long.
We went and got ice cream. That's one thing.
Yes. Yep, we had the grand opening of Crispy Cone, which I thought was really good. Good enough. We took another set of friends out on Saturday. Tried to go back Friday night, taking my granddaughter, but the line was still out the door and going to be 45 minutes. So waited till Saturday. It was a little cold. So but they were very happy with how many people. We had 5 council members there. They were very happy with that. So, yep.
The mayor and I went to a neighborhood services leadership thing. That's one day.
Yep.
It was good. Question and answer with a bunch of residents in the city wanting to be better leaders. So it was good. Actually went out to Sunset Hills. That's, that's what they call it, the island out there is what I heard. In their little HOA that's there. He had some interesting questions that I'm going to follow up on. But my goal is to try and help them feel more of a part of the city because they don't feel like that. Part of it is an HOA, the first phase of an HOA. And I learned this. My husband went with me, but everybody knew this but me. Blue street signs indicate it's an HOA. I learned that. Yeah, and it's true. So right across the street, it's white. But yeah, he had some good questions and good ideas and some things to think about. So I might bring some future items to the council to see what we can do out there. But it's a nice area. It's really nice.
We also had the ability.
Inclusion
Services.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was good. And they were moving residents in the next morning, bright and early, so. Okay, any other reports? Okay, we'll move along. We do not have need for a closed session, so we just have one more action item.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we stand adjourned. See you in the other room at 6:30.